The feeling I get when I go on board her on the morning is tranquility. She has her own atmosphere. It's like being in another world. Lined with copper.
Wow, okay.
Which had two uses. Mostly prevent any sparks or things like that.
Yeah.
And secondly, prevents rats. She has a feeling of warmth, and it's like she's breathing. You know, I feel she breathes with me. She's alive. I mean, seawater isn't so bad for ships. Rainwater is bad. It's just a whole different atmosphere. It's hard to explain how she is. It's very much a hands-on ship. She's not just a ship. She's a living, breathing being, as far as I'm concerned. So basically, it's the toilets.
Oh.
So it has port and starboard side. Quite lucky. It depends on which way I suppose the wind's blowing as to where you want it to.
Oh, I see. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely worship that ship. I adore her.
Jayne, you love the Trincomalee.
Absolutely.
She is magnificent, isn't she?
She's amazing.
Tell us about her.
She's built in 1817. Well, built 1816, first sailed 1817. She was built over in Bombay, in India, for the Navy, as a frigate, which was a warship. She would have 240 crew and was originally built to carry 38 guns.
Right.
Although that was modified later on in her career down to 28 guns.
So she was built in Bombay. Why Bombay?
At the time of her build, there was a shortage of British oak, and it was also proven to be really expensive. So the Navy were having ships built over in India using Malabar teak. Which,
as opposed to oak?
As opposed to oak. The teak was better for shipbuilding.
Right.
It could withstand the difference in temperatures, heat, as well as the cold.
Oh, I see. And so Bombay would have been the perfect place to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And who built her in Bombay? Was it the British?
No, she was built by Indian workers. Bombaji Jamajetsi, I think, was the Indian shipbuilder at the time.
Right.
So she was built over there. She was named after a port in Ceylon.
Trincomalee?
Yes.
Yes.
That's where she sailed from on her first journey back over to Portsmouth.
Do you know how long she took to build?
She took over a year to build.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was built and launched on the 12th of October in 1817.
So this is just after the Napoleonic Wars,
Yes.
2 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. And so her main job would have been what?
When she was built, obviously the wars had ended, so she wasn't used in battle. So she was mostly used for patrolling, policing and exploration.
Wow.
And also helping with the anti-slavery.
Of course she was an anti-slaver, wasn't
Yes.
she? Yeah, okay. So the British, in the early part of the 19th century, throughout the 19th century, acted as policemen around the world, didn't they? Trying to bring the slave trade to an end.
Yeah.
And so her role was, I suppose, just patrolling the obvious ports, West Africa.
Picking up wounded soldiers, wounded naval, transporting them back.
And I suppose just the mere fact that Trincomalee turned up in port, in like a slave port where the slaves were being sold, just the fact that she pitches up is enough to bring the bring the trade to an end. I mean, she's impressive now, 200 years later.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
And look at that. What do we call this fella on the end here?
He's a figurehead, and it was thought at first that it was obviously the shipbuilder who built him, a portrait of him.
Right.
So it's the third figurehead she's had, so it was probably just depicting an Indian shipbuilder.
At that time.
Yeah, rather than somebody famous.
It makes her even more exotic, doesn't it? The fact that she was built in India.
Yes.
And so this Indian family of shipbuilders, I did read about them a few years ago. I believe they're still in existence.
I believe they are, yeah.
Very wealthy business family in India, building ships for the British Navy and, of course, the East India Company.
Yeah.
Wow. And she is the oldest floating warship.
She's the oldest floating warship in Europe, the second oldest floating warship in the world.
who has the mantle for owning the oldest
The
warship?
oldest belongs to the Americans, and that's the USS Constitution.
Right.
Who, when the plans were originally sent out in 1812 on board the HMS Java for the Trincomalee to be built,
Yes.
the US Constitution captured the Java and fired it and sank it. So the plans to build Trincomalee obviously were sunk.
Oh, I see.
So it took until 1816 before the next set of plans were sent over to India to build her.
Okay.
And therefore she was built from those plans and finished in October of 1817.
So had the Americans not sunk the original
Java,
ship,
then she would have been
the oldest.
The oldest, yeah. Well,
In the
not
world.
the oldest because the Java, the Constitution
Oh,
sank.
right,
yeah.
okay.
But she would have been a few years older.
A few years older. Okay,
But
brilliant.
the USS Constitution is over in Boston in America, and that is floating as well.
Okay. Is it quite rare to have a boat so old, a ship so old, to be floating? Because
I
mean,
believe so, yeah.
There she is.
Yeah.
She's genuinely floating, isn't she?
Yep.
Can we go on board?
Absolutely, yep.
Go on, I'll follow you.
Oh, we need to walk round.
Okay, which way are we going?
We'll walk back round this way.
Okay.
I don't know why that door's been closed, but it has.
It's probably because the museum's open now.
Oh, right.
So, they do tours, don't they, with that?
Yeah.
I just.
Sorry about that. It's okay.
Right, Jane. So this is what we call this. Is this the gangplank?
Yes, this is the gangway, yes.
The gangway.
Yes.
Okay. So look at the reflections in the water. Look at that. So those lovely Georgian style buildings. They're replicas, aren't they?
They are, yes. The museum's got replicas of all the buildings around the time. So for the few hundred years.
But there's nothing replica about the Trincomalee.
No, she is a genuine article.
Oh my goodness gracious. So where are we now?
We are on the gun deck now, which would be the main working area of the ship.
Wow, gosh. I mean, obviously very, very low indeed.
Yes, yeah.
Now, the reasons for that are not just because people were smaller.
It's just a lot of decks to fit in a ship.
Right. How many guns?
She has now 26. She started with 38.
Right.
Yeah. But they were reduced down to 26 as she was fitted with bigger guns, which more powerful guns. So the cannons, these are what's known as 18-pounders.
Yeah.
Which is the size of the shot balls that she fired.
Okay, yeah. Go on, if you need to speak to people,
No,
you're doing your job.
No, I forgot to turn the radio off. Hang on.
Wow, I mean, she's quite a size, isn't she?
She is, yes.
I mean, look at that, and what's down there?
Down here is the captain's cabin.
Right, I'm going to follow you to the captain's cabin. Even the panelling here, Jane, is really quite rather
stately,
lovely,
yeah.
isn't it?
The most opulent part of the ship.
Yes.
So this is where the captain would have dined with dignitaries, royalties. Obviously back in the day when built, it would have been a lot more opulent. There would have been rugs and
Well, home.
pictures, yeah, nice touches, things like that.
Home from home. And would he actually sleep in here as well?
It would have slept, there would have been a canvas tent just on the other side.
Right.
Just on the other side of the wall, yeah. He would have had to put up with guns. There'd have been 4 cannons in here that would have been pushed against the wall.
Okay.
Secured by the iron rings.
Got you. Okay, and quite a view. Look at the view he's got.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the views that this ship has seen over the last couple of hundred years?
If only she could speak.
If only she could, but in a way she does, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. She's still here, and that is just a testament to how well she was built.
And you love her, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow. I mean, I'm really impressed with the size of the captain's quarters. I mean, it's a good space, but I suppose that literally the running of the ship all took place in here, didn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. And what do we have down? What's this?
These are what's known as the heads. So basically, it's the toilets.
Oh.
So it has port and starboard side, quite lucky. It depends on which way I suppose the wind's blowing as to where you want it to.
Oh, I see. Oh my gosh. Okay, and he even has a window for a nice view. Okay, so the captain has 2 toilets.
Yeah, 2 toilets.
Ensuite facilities.
Unfortunately, their toilets are up on the top deck, which we'll have a look at as we're doing this tour.
Right. Okay. Come on then. I'm going to follow you.
This is the capstan.
Now, what does the capstan do?
Capstan was used for pulling the anchor up, weighing anchor, also for storing, dropping, lifting and storing things.
Okay, so it's a big winch, isn't it?
It's a massive winch.
So you push this here.
188 crew.
You're kidding.
To turn it. Yep. So, really? Especially when weighing anchor and things like that.
And how many crew would be on board?
240.
Okay, so a big percentage of the crew
would be used
are involved
in order to weigh anchor and when they're dropping barrels and everything down. So it's very much a hands-on ship.
Wow.
Do you want to do with the stove?
Yeah, let's have a look at. Is it the stove? So this is the kitchen area, I suppose, is it?
I'm just going to turn this dehumidifier
Okay.
off.
Now we've got a lot of buckets around here, Jayne.
Yeah, we have got buckets. Unfortunately, due to her age and everything else, she does have leaks. But our shipwright is on with a long-running conservation in recorking her.
Okay, it must be never ending.
It's a bit like the Forth Bridge.
Okay, I'm sure it is. So this is one.
This is the galley, so this would be the only way the ship was heated.
Right.
There's no other heating on the ship, so if you were working in this area, you were quite blessed.
Okay.
All the cooking would be done on here as well.
Yeah.
The crew would prepare their own food and fetch it up to be cooked.
Oh, I see. So there was no kind of set menu for the crew?
No, they'd have their own groups and one of them would prepare it and then it would be brought up and cooked and they would be just constantly running day and night, obviously being the only source of heating as well. The captain and the officers were lucky enough to be able to bring on a few animals on board, which would have been kept at this part in the bow of the ship. So they'd be used for meat and milk, things like
I see.
we have a little lamb, a goat.
Right.
There'd be chickens.
So
they're quite well.
Every square inch is employed, isn't it?
Yes.
And obviously the ship would have had problems with rats.
Yes. So the ship's cat and the crew would have took care of those.
Now, would the crew eat the rats?
I believe, yes. I have been told that, yes, they would eat the rats. They'd also trap seagulls and eat what they could.
Right.
But whether they did this on the Trincomalee, we don't know.
I'm sure they did. If they were doing it on all the other ships, I'd imagine they did. Right.
So going up now onto the top deck.
Are you okay to follow us? Yeah. Right. Oh, wow. Gosh.
Beautiful day for it.
What a location. What a view, Jayne.
Yeah, this is the bow of the ship, so the front, the heads.
My gosh. I mean, it's deeply impressive, isn't it?
So as we were talking about the heads downstairs in the captain's cabin,
As in the toilets.
as in the toilets, yeah, the crew would use these two.
Right.
Given the name heads, because obviously at the front of ships there's the figurehead, which we were talking about earlier.
Oh, I see.
So these were positioned at the side, so they would have a pretty precarious time.
My goodness me.
You
So
were caught out short.
they would literally have to crawl through here.
And then just hope it weren't too bad a day, I suppose.
Well, I think you'd wait for
You
good
would just
weather,
sit with
wouldn't
your legs
you?
crossed, wouldn't you? Wait for wind to change.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there would have been work, you know, I suppose 24 hours a day.
Yes, yeah.
Wouldn't there be?
They worked in teams, so she was obviously sailing 24 hours a day. So the main part of her, the stern down here, where we've got the wheel.
Okay, this is the where all the steering goes on.
Yes, yeah. So you've got your capstan here as well, which would feed through from downstairs. So
And so the capstan could be worked
yeah,
upstairs as well.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and then under the cover here is the wheel.
Wow. And would that have to be manned 24 hours a day?
Yes, yeah, and you'd have, obviously there'd be somebody at the front, because if you stood here you've got kind of, how do you see where you're going, I always think, you know,
Yes.
you've got mass in your way. But yeah, there would have been people all the way, you know, left a bit, right a bit.
Right, got you, yeah. And again, so the captain's quarters is down
Yeah.
here.
Down on the stern, yeah, the stern of the ship.
Let's have a look at the rear. The size is immense, and she wasn't a particularly big
No, she
ship in a
wasn't,
day,
no,
was
no.
she?
No, she's not. No, she's a 5th grade frigate. So the huge ones were the 1st grade,
Right.
and they could have up to 5 gun decks on her, whereas the Trincomalee, she only just has the 1 gun deck.
And what about the men themselves? Where did they eat and sleep?
They were down on the mess deck.
Can we have a look at that?
We can go
Right.
down there, yeah.
Now, do you want me to go down backwards? Or?
Everywhere you feel comfortable. I tend to go down backwards.
I'm okay, actually. And I've just... There'll be people complaining, actually, saying you should be going down backwards, but there you go. I know it.
So just mind your head as we get further down here.
Okay, so we've been on this deck, haven't we,
Yeah.
Jane? Right.
Yeah,
So this is the gun deck,
And now we're going down to the mess deck.
the mess deck. So this is where literally the living...
This is the living quarters.
Okay. And I'll just take it steady. So you've got to do a lot of ducking, haven't you?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So down here is where the crew,
Do we need hats down here?
I think, yes we do, yeah.
Right. So we put the...
Just we've got some very low ceilings.
Okay.
beams.
So it's even lower down
It
here
is,
in the living
yeah.
quarters.
Yeah.
Right. Follow you then. Okay, so an awful lot of ducking.
There is, yeah.
Oh, this is very cramped. I mean, people were a lot shorter, so it wouldn't have been as bad.
No, it
but
wouldn't.
still be
But
pretty
still
bad.
very, very cramped when there would be around 200 crew sleeping and eating down just in this area.
And this is where they always slept and always
Always,
ate.
yes. The officers, they had their own part of the ship, which we will go on to next.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
So they were slept in hammocks like these,
Oh, I see.
which would be removed on a morning and taken back up onto the top deck
Why would they do that?
for space. So,
Oh, I see, because
Yeah,
this
so
is where the
yeah.
eating goes on and everything else.
so there were hammock rails at the side of the ship on the top deck.
Oh,
just
and
like
they
yeah, would
literally
be-
hang here.
Yeah, they'd be hung from these.
Quite an organisation then, because space obviously is of paramount importance
Absolutely,
on a
yeah.
ship like this,
Yeah.
isn't it? Okay, and the men would actually sleep in such close proximity to one another.
Yes. You'd be hoping your next door neighbour didn't snore.
Yeah, I think you would. Have you ever tried to get in one of these hammocks?
No. I've never done it either.
And apparently there is a knack.
I can imagine, yeah.
Gosh, okay, so eating, all
Eating,
down here.
yeah,
Yeah,
so-
what have we got? We've got samples of food as well, have we?
Yeah, we've got like this particular plate. So So this is what's known as tack.
Tack.
Yeah, it's a ship's biscuit.
Yeah.
Made very basically with flour and water.
Yeah.
And would have been as hard as that.
Really? Genuinely?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just meat and basic vegetables.
Okay.
Interesting fact is the trays that they were served on, the wooden trays,
Yeah.
square. So when people say what you need's a good square meal,
Yes.
it relates to the shape of the plates that the food was served on.
Okay, so they were square for what reason?
Square, cheap and easy to make, a simple design.
Yeah.
Obviously crockery and pottery and things were very expensive.
Yeah.
Just great use of wood.
Okay,
And they
and I
could be
suppose they
stacked.
could all stack
Yeah.
together and
Yeah.
again, utilising space, I'd
Yeah.
imagine. Wow, how interesting. And even the tables are actually strung,
Yeah,
aren't they?
well,
So they can move
you'd
with
need
the...
something that could be moved, and obviously
Yeah.
the ship is constantly moving, so
Right.
it's probably the best way to balance them.
Now, would they've actually had a ship's cat?
Yes,
And he would keep the rats at bay?
he would keep the rats and mice at bay.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a bad job for a cat. I think it'd be, it'd be quite busy, wouldn't he?
Right, we're going to where the officers.
Okay, slow down a bit there, Jane, because you know where you're going.
Just watch keep the head down.
Now, what's that bleeping?
That's just an alarm signal that's going off. We're fine.
Did I sound worried?
Just a bit.
Okay, so where are we going now?
So this is what's known as the wardroom.
The wardroom.
This
It's
is
quite
where the
posh.
officers, they would have eaten.
Right.
Obviously, they're very, very well. You
Yes.
know, they'd have finer food than the crew.
And
Nice
good
crockery,
pottery,
good
porcelain.
silverware. Yeah. The officers would also sleep in these quarters here.
So these are like little mini apartments,
Yeah.
officer apartments.
Just a little tiny,
Literally a bedroom.
just a private area. So
Yeah.
a little bit better than the crew had to put up with. So it'd be basically fitted out with just a hammock,
Yeah.
a wash jug and stand, somewhere to read and write.
So it's almost private, isn't it?
Yeah,
Almost.
they would have had canvas curtains that they could have lowered, a canvas blind, so
Oh, I
they would have
see.
had a degree
Well,
of privacy.
So it would be quite private, wouldn't it? Can I sit on the camp bed?
It might not.
No. Will it collapse? Kind of keen to get on that. And oh, I see. Okay, so that will actually move as well with the swaying, swaying of the
Sways
ship.
of the ship. Yeah.
It's quite a. It's like it is a mini cell, isn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't a great deal of room.
How many officers would be on board, roughly?
29 officers.
So about 10% of the crew would be officer
Yeah.
class. Wow, how absolutely fascinating. Can you imagine the tales that have been told here, Jane? The places that this thing has visited. Wow, okay. Do we get even lower than this?
We go down even lower.
We do?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm going to follow you then.
So down here, the next step we come to is what's known as the Orlop.
The Orlop,
Orlop.
meaning what? What is down here?
Down here is where you have the surgeons. So any surgery that needed doing, obviously dentistry, things like that.
Oh, lovely, lovely place to be.
Injuries.
Right.
So the surgeon's cabin, they would all be performed in there.
Oh my goodness me, can you imagine? Can you imagine? We can't get in there, Jane, can we?
No,
Is it all locked
It's
up?
all locked up. Yeah. In here, this is what's known as the aft magazine. So this is where the gunpowder would be stored.
So this is a safe room,
This
isn't
is
it?
a safe room, yes.
Goodness me, confines.
Mind your head.
Luckily I've
So
got
as
that.
you can
Oh, I
see,
see.
it's lined with copper,
Okay,
which had two uses. Mostly prevent any sparks or things like that.
Yeah.
And secondly, prevents rats.
Okay,
So
so it's a proper, secure,
this is where the
safe room.
gunpowder was stored, yeah. The lantern would have been behind glass. Obviously, everything
Yeah.
was candlelight, so you didn't want, or oil, you didn't want to take the risk of a spark going awry.
Right.
So there are two of these on the ship. There's the aft cabin here, aft magazine, and then there's one over towards the bow.
My goodness me. It's, again, everything, the whole construction of the thing is just beautiful. It's
It
like
is.
It's like touching
Like
an
a work
antique,
of art,
yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
an antique piece of furniture almost, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Everything is so
beautiful.
beautifully done. Okay.
Very tricky to get in and out.
Well, it keeps you nimble, Jane.
Yeah.
Am I just going by here?
Yeah.
Now, oh gosh, it's really opening up now. What's all this about?
This is the hold.
The hold.
Yeah. So this is obviously the holding thing, water, supplies.
Blimey. I mean, it's enormous down here.
It certainly is. We've got the carpenter's walk.
That there.
Which is this going around. This goes around the ship. So obviously any repairs that need to be done, they've got access
Okay.
in order to do that.
So this is where they keep all their tools and spare parts.
Yep. Ropes,
Right.
barrels.
Shots there,
Shots,
cannonballs, yeah. Gosh, and so well ordered, isn't it? I mean, the Navy were masters at order,
Absolutely.
which is why they ruled the seas, I suppose.
Yes.
Goodness me. Oh, just touching these things is quite amazing. You love her, Jane, don't you?
Absolutely.
You really do. It's so nice to meet people that love doing what they do.
It's always say if you love your job, you don't work.
You don't,
So-
do you? No.
And it doesn't feel like work when I come on board on a morning.
How exciting, and the smell as well. I wish
Yeah.
my viewers could smell it because it's really quite distinctive, isn't it?
These would have been originally the water barrels
Yeah.
that was stored on her. Problem with those was she was equipped to sail for at least 6 months at a time. The water would become stagnant. So later on in her career, the Navy fitted water tanks,
Oh, I see.
which benefited the crew. The water was a great deal fresher, wasn't contaminated. In the bottom of the ship, there would have been gravel
Yeah.
to hold shingle to hold the barrels.
Right.
So what you can see here and all across the floor is the ballast of the ship. So these are known as pigs. It's
Pig iron. Okay.
yeah.
And that will be moved around depending on
Yeah,
what the ship was
depending on what she
carrying.
needed, yeah, and how much ballast she did need.
I mean, it's a huge area, isn't it, down here?
is.
And would people be working down here all of the time, keeping it in order, or would it be just a place that just lock up and...
Well, it wouldn't have been locked up, but yeah, there would have been there'd be somebody checking on the builders. So, in this little room here,
Shall I come your side?
yes, that's right. So this is what's known as the bilge room.
Bilge room.
So obviously all ships take on water when it's raining, things like that.
Yeah.
So at the bottom of them, they have channels. So in there,
It's like a stream.
yeah, I can show you quite
Go on.
quickly.
Yeah. Are you going in there?
Originally, yeah, this is what I do 3 times a week.
Hang on, let me come... Okay. Don't do anything exciting
Okay.
until I get myself in there. Right.
So originally, the water would be pumped by hand up. We're lucky now to have electric pumps.
I see.
So as you can see, there's just a wee bit of water in. So
Yeah. And what are you doing now?
now I am going to pump the water. As you can see, this is now an electric pump which pumps the water overboard.
Goodness me. And that would have been done just
It
simply
would
by
have been
hand.
done manually, yeah, which quite a long way to pump because it goes right up the ship and out over the side.
And that would be normal for any ship to take on
Yes,
water.
oh yeah, they all do, yeah. I mean, seawater isn't so bad for ships. Rainwater is bad.
Now, okay, so what would the difference be then? Why would salty water be
Salt
not so
water's
bad?
preservation with salt.
see,
It's the
okay.
rainwater that's coming down that gets into the wood. It causes decay, then allows insects to get in. So
Okay.
once again, it's just ships start to rot.
So salt water is better than rainwater,
Yes.
huh? That's something. Oh, I've just lost my torch. Hang on. I've got it.
That's fine.
It's just fabulous.
She's wonderful.